Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to finally be here. I've looked forward to this for so long, and I apologize about last semester. The newspaper thing sounded so cryptic, but anyway, we're here. We're going to have a lot of fun this semester. I only have 2 minutes, so I need to make it quick. I thought what I would do for this class, and I don't have the course number, I apologize. When I watch the credits of a movie, the hundreds of names that go on the credits of a movie, I stay and watch because I often see my friends on there. There's a variety of people it takes to make a movie, and I like to see who's doing what. That's really kind of why I watch the movies. I've been in the movie business for more than 20 years now. But it dawns on me, of course, that I would imagine most of you probably only know a few names among the hundreds of people and probably have no idea about the roles and the contributions those men and women make to making those movies. It's a beautiful process. Actually, I'm very excited to see manufacturing alive and well in America, at least in the movie business. We like to call the movie business a blue-collar art. There's a lot of hard-working people that are both artists and could be described mostly as labor who do unbelievably unique jobs in the making of a movie. Quick story, example, friend of mine, Doug Chartier, he's a dolly grip. Doug is a very big, strong, burly man who's an artist and a dolly grip. Among his many credits, he pushed the dolly, that's the big device that's very mechanical that the camera rests on for James Cameron in Titanic, the big movie. And he loves his dollies. He is an engineer, and he's an artist, and these very mechanical, beautiful machines that move the cameras the way. So there was one shot that was falling behind as typical of the movie business during the making of Titanic. In order for, it's the shot where the camera's going across the water toward the ship, and the water needed to be salt water because the light acts different on salt water than it does fresh water. The idea was the grip team was to build a ramp across the water so the dolly could go across the water up to the ship. Mr. Cameron, by the way, is a very impatient man. The grip team did not finish the ramp, and Cameron turned to Doug and said, "Drop the dolly in the water, we're going." And Doug said, "Mr. Cameron, I can't do that. That's salt water. It will cause the dolly to seize." I won't use the expletives that Mr. Cameron used at that particular moment, but he's a very demanding man and said, essentially, drop the dolly in the water. Doug dropped the dolly in the water, 4 feet of water. They did the shot several times. It's in the movie, if you want to. Doug was in tears as he's pushing this dolly through the salt water, takes the dolly out. The next morning, the dolly is completely seized up. This is, by the way, a $300,000 device. They go rent another dolly, because this is how it works in the movie business. They bring another dolly in. At night, Doug has told the production manager he's going to take the dolly home. He takes the dolly home, and for the next 6 weeks, disassembles it and rebuilds it, because he loves this equipment. And he's an engineer, and he's an artist, he's a hardworking guy. Unfortunately, I'm not joking, the very next day, when he brought the dolly back, and they returned the other rented dolly, Mr. Cameron asked him to drop it in the water again. It was seized and never to be used again. The film school will be the place of this class. It should be a lot of fun. We're going to look at all these different roles and the contributions they make to the creative of making a movie. I think you'll learn a lot about the industry and the art and the science of movie making. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Rod Anderson, and I'm going to tell my joke anyway, since I'm not first, but for 60 years, I'm used to being first. And Terry, I think you should begin with Z sometimes instead of A, all right? Anyway, Rod Anderson, course 25, which is how the war was won, World War II, 1942, 1945. I spent 41 years teaching at FSU, now retired. And I have to tell you that I've taught the first half of this class. It was Fateful Decisions, 1939, 1942. And it's a great experience that I said, I got to do it again. So now we're going to find out how the war turned out, okay? 1942, 1945. All right, so what's the class about? Well, it's not going to be about a narrative of the war. I mean, you all know how it turned out, okay? So we don't have to do that. But what I'm going to try to answer is the seemingly simple question, how was the war won? I said seemingly simple because people who lived the era, didn't know it was going to be won. Richard Overy's great book, how the war was won, said, and I quote, no rational man in early 1942 would have guessed at the eventual outcome of the war. And that's where I begin. I'm going to take a detailed look at how the war was going in the spring of 1942, and it was not going very well for the Allies. Okay? Now, you know how the war turned out, but I'm going to try to get you to rethink it and place yourself back in the spring of 1942, because I think at that point, as we go forward, we can better understand, in fact, what are the critical turning points of the war. Okay? After that, I'll tell the story of the war as a series of questions. Political, military, economic, technical, the war at sea and in air, and the human side of the war. Millions of people were, of course, affected by the war itself. When I was born in 1938, okay, I had 20 aunts and uncles. Many of them, indeed, into the service, worked in industry, etc. None of them came back to that small northern town in Maine that we all grew up in. None of them came back. Some did not come back at all. We're all affected by the war. And so I would be surprised if there's anybody in this audience, in fact, in one way or another, whose family was not affected by that war. So what are the questions? And I see Terry is waving, that means 2 minutes. So all right, here's some of the questions. How is it that Germany, a nation that produced world-class automobiles in the 1930s and pioneered the mobile armored warfare known as Blitzkrieg, how is it that Germany was dependent on horses throughout the war to carry most of its supplies for the infantry? And how is it that the Soviet Union, with only 1/4 of the steel available to it compared to Germany, could produce twice as many planes, tanks, and guns as the enemy, even though Germany had occupied most of the traditional industrial, agricultural, and mining area of the Soviet Union? Okay? And how do you finance a world war? This may not be as sexy as how do you fight one, but the economics of the war is very critical to how it turned out. And if you listen to Germany's generals after the war, if they managed to avoid the hangman, you would think that except for Adolf's interfering in military decisions, the war might have been turned out differently. Well, okay, we'll see. We'll see. I placed most of the emphasis on the European theater, but we will follow the war in the Pacific as well. And we'll, for example, ask the question also, what always rises, would we have dropped the atomic bomb on Germany? Okay? And we have some interesting information on that. All right. Well, basically, how I teach the class, I lecture. We'll have questions at appropriate times. I will ask you questions to keep you on your toes. I'll provide a digital copy of all my lectures and of bibliography if you want to do additional reading. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Diana Bell, and I'm a PhD student in the Department of Religion here at FSU. I study Islam and indigenous religion in Africa, and last semester I taught the Part 1 Introduction to Islam for OLLI. This semester I'm offering Part 2, which is course number 5 in the catalog. But if you missed Part 1, please feel welcome to join us for Part 2. We're going to spend the first week in the semester. In Part 1, we studied early Muslim history through about the 13th century, some of the precepts and rituals found in Islam. But we will spend the first week kind of catching you up on that history. And then for the remaining 5 weeks, we will examine Islam and its adherents from the 14th century to the present day. And we'll specifically concentrate on the last 2 centuries of Islamic history. And this is a period of reform and renewal and regeneration and revolution in the wake of the popularity of Western politics and culture. So each course we will come at Islam from a different time period and geographical area, but we will investigate this central and basic question of what has happened to different Muslim communities and intellectuals. They have responded to the challenges and changes that are posed by colonization, westernization, and modernity. So I hope to see some of you next month. Thanks.
I'm Ray Bellamy, and the course that I'll be teaching is number 13 in your catalog. As you get older, you start to realize you're not going to live forever. Have you noticed? And you start wondering, what kind of world am I leaving behind? And that got me interested in the whole topic of climate change and global warming. And then that led to renewable energy. And that led to a realization that we're running out of food, and that big corporations are buying up the land to have these great big farms, and that the small farmer is disappearing, and that food requires water, and we're running out of water, I mean fresh water. And to make fresh water out of saline, we need energy, and we're running out of energy. And our political system doesn't work, as you may have noticed. And that all of our economists are making all their projections based on long-term growth. And yet we have a finite planet, and it's likely that endless growth is not going to be possible. And so here are all these developed countries except China, borrowed to the hilt, depending on future growth to pay off their debts. So trouble ahead. Anyway, that's the course.
Well, Ray, on that happy note. Okay, when I was a sophomore at the University of Virginia, I was an aeronautical engineering student at the time. Had a very bright young instructor, ABD, working on his dissertation at Northwestern, but teaching at UVA, who taught 2 books back to back in his sophomore survey course. We did Moby Dick, we did Heart of Darkness. And I said, oh my gosh, let me rethink my major. And I talked to him and his wife after class, and I said, you mean they pay you to talk about these great works of literature? You could make a career out of talking about literature? And he said, oh yeah. So I changed my major twice to get into English, and the rest is history, and it came here. I've done several courses for the Academy, and now OLLI, and love what I do, and I love the books, and I love the fact that you all read, you ask questions, you go to web links. It's great fun, so we're going to have fun. I'm going to hold up 2 editions of the 3 works we're looking at. You can see the course description. We're going to start with Conrad's first story featuring Charlie Marlowe as a junior officer in the merchant service. And the best edition to use is a Barnes & Noble, the paperback edition, not the little trade edition, smaller print, but this one. And so I'll talk to Terry about ordering advance copies after we see the enrollment to have those available if you'd like them. And they don't charge us anything if you don't buy them, but it sells a lot. So I think this is the one to use, the larger one, not the smaller one. So we're going to order this one. We're going to do first week on Conrad's story in which he introduces Charlie Marlowe as a junior officer, called Youth, based on his own experiences. Then we're going to do The Secret Sharer, S-H-A-R-E-R. We have a Sharer Road in Tallahassee. One time I taught a Conrad course, one road over on Robin Hood, our house, from Sharer Road. So we were doing all kinds of things with Sharer Road that night. That's an amazing story. Conrad loves to deal with doubles. When you read The Heart of Darkness, in the last 4 weeks, we'll start at the mouth of the Thames. We'll go to the mouth of the Congo River. Rivers in parallel, cultures and scary parallels, as he'll remind us. Then we'll spend 4 weeks, as I just mentioned, on The Heart of Darkness. And along the way, we're going to see cuts from Coppola's Apocalypse Now, the film from 1979 that he's reissued in 2010 in an amplified version. So we'll have some cuts from that, too. So that's the course. Looking forward to seeing some of you there. Thanks. Number 16? Pardon? Oh, it's Joseph Conrad, The Complex Vision, writer for all times. Yeah, I'm sorry, it's in the program, but he is a writer for all times, and we're going to figure out how Conrad relates to National Geographic's latest article on Africa. Still relates. Okay, thanks.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Del Campo. I am a graduate student in musicology here at Florida State. I'm very excited to teach this class. My number is number 10 in the program on popular music. I'm originally from Connecticut, came down here. I received my master's in the spring of last year. I'm currently a PhD student here in musicology. The course is going to be a lot of fun, I hope. I plan on moving in between class discussions. We're going to listen to a lot of music. We're going to watch live performances of music and music videos once those become relevant. The time frame is going to be generally World War II to the present, although we're going to take some time at the beginning to go through what was most influential and most important from about 1870 through World War II. In addition to the actual music, an important goal of the course will be to explore how music fits into culture. And so in order to do that, we're going to look at the various political, technological, social, and economic influences that have shaped the history of popular music in the United States. It's a great opportunity for me anytime that I get to engage in a dialogue with people about music, whether that's music that they love, music that they hate, music that they listen to every day, or music that they grew up listening to. And I plan on having a large variety of all of those categories in the course. I'm confident that I will probably learn as much from this dialogue with you as you will with me, and I hope that you'll take the opportunity to learn with me this semester, and I hope to see many of you in a few weeks. Thanks.
My name is Pat Johnson, and I'll be teaching the Great Decisions class, numbers 2 and 12. It's the same class, different sections, different times, and different locations, and you can see that on your listing. Great Decisions is sponsored by the Foreign Policy Association, 95-year-old nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that's committed to helping American citizens get more involved in the foreign policy process. In each class, you will have an opportunity to discuss issues, and in addition, you have an opportunity to vote on different policy options, to vote privately on that. Each year, the Foreign Policy Association selects different topics, 8 new ones. And then they provide information about these topics in the Great Decisions book, which we will use for background material. This year, 3 of the topics deal with the Middle East. One on Iran and the U.S. options in our troubled relationship with Iran. A second deals with Egypt, what happens next under the Morsi Muslim Brotherhood-dominated regime. And a third Middle Eastern topic takes up and contrasts Libya and Syria with respect to how other nations have been responding to the turmoil in each of those nations, and gives reasons why the responses have been different. The other issues, by the way, are listed in your OLLI newsletter, along with information on how to acquire this book of briefing papers. This is the 4th year that I have taught this class, and I have to tell you that at the end of every class, I am struck by the wisdom and experience of the class members. It's a great learning experience. Join us, and thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Livaday. I'm an OLLI member, and I'm filling in today for Dina Ramsey, who teaches various technology classes and also deals with some with genealogy as well. Dina couldn't be with us today, but for any of you who have taken some of her courses, as I have, I'm sure you found her a very good instructor and who kind of gives you an overview and gives you details as well to help you in whatever type of course she's making available. Dina is a certified trainer and also has a degree in computer programming and 16 years experience in classroom training. She's very active in local genealogy and state genealogy societies and has made it a second career path to help with, to get everyone on board with researching their own roots. For those of you who have been working on your genealogy, Dina has a new class this term called Digitize Your Family History. It's number 7. It's going to be on Tuesdays from 9:30 to 11:30 and will give you the opportunity to create a multimedia presentation from photos, video, audio, and documents that you have started to put together. And it will give you an opportunity to share your family history through a digital presentation with perhaps a family reunion or other family members in, as a gift or as a commemorative presentation for them to have. This is a new class. We haven't had it before. You need to be familiar with the computer and the internet. You need to have a flash drive and know how to use it, and have an interest in family history. The class, like all of these classes, is limited to 15 people, which is the number of workstations at the computer lab in the Pepper Building. Last time we had a great response to the iPhone and iPad classes, and we learned that they needed to be separate and we needed to have 2 levels of proficiency. A number of technology courses will be available beginning the week of February the 4th. If Santa brought you an iPad, the iPad Getting Started class, which is number 21, is available for 3 weeks beginning February 6th. This class will help you become more comfortable with the iPad and learn to use it. We'll cover the essentials on how to adjust your settings, download an app, do an iMessage to a friend, take photographs, and charge your batteries. We'll also answer the most commonly asked questions. You need to bring your iPad, your USB dock, your iTunes username and password to the class. And for those of you that found a new iPhone under your Christmas tree, the iPhone Getting Started class, number 22, is for you. That class will be held on Wednesday afternoons from 1:30 to 3:30 for 3 weeks starting on February the 27th. This course is for novice users who have an iPhone and want to learn how to use it and become more comfortable with it. Dina will cover the essentials, including how to adjust your settings, download an app, make a call, text a friend, take a photograph, everything to get you started. You can bring your iPhone, because this is a hands-on course, as well as your USB dock, connector, charger, your Apple ID, and your password. If you feel comfortable with your iPhone or your iPad and want to get more out of your device, Dina has both an iPhone and an iPad Beyond the Basics course available. Each is 3 weeks long. The iPhone Beyond the Basics course, which is number 15 in your program, begins Wednesday, February the 27th from 9:30 to 11:30. This is an intermediate workshop geared for users who have an initial level of comfort on the iPhone and are ready to move on to learn how to use other aspects. Again, this requires you to bring your iPhone, your dock, your passwords, and come in and learn a little bit more. Beyond the Basics for the iPad is course number 14, and it's also an intermediate workshop that will give you additional information. Students will explore how to do efficient app searches, manage and organize screens, group your apps, how to set restrictions, and other tips and tricks, as well as the best accessories to use. If you don't have an iPhone or an iPad, how about a digital camera? Course number 11 is on your digital camera. Dina will offer this course on Tuesdays from 1:30 to 3:30. In this class, you gain a basic understanding of digital camera operation, maintenance, how to master downloading your pictures from your camera and save them on your computer in various folders, and how to organize them. This also, she'll go over a free photo editing program that you'll be able to make everybody look much better than they do in person. This course requires knowledge of Windows and Internet basics. Students should bring their camera and their USB cord to class. This class does not cover a single lens reflex or a digital single lens reflex camera. Mobility is required because you're going to be going outside and doing some photography during the class and working with your camera. Take one of these courses and surprise your grandchildren what you learned, and yourself as well. Remember, the classes are limited to 15 participants, as that's the number of workstations at the Pepper Center. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lonnie Mann. I am not a professional archaeologist, and I've never played one on television. But I have been a member of Panhandle Archaeological Society at Tallahassee for over 12 years, and at that time I've learned some pretty remarkable things about Florida archaeology. And I've had a lot of fun doing it, and I'd like to cut you in on the action. In response to interest expressed in Earl Hoover's plantation class last semester, PAST and the Florida Bureau of Archaeological Research are pleased to offer you a course entitled Uncovering Florida's Past. Thousands of years ago, were you here around lunchtime, you may have picked up one of these, an atlatl or spear thrower, which has a velocity of over 150 miles an hour when thrown, to bring down some big game for mastodon burgers. If you enroll in this class, which is course number 1, you'll not only learn to throw one of these, but a great deal more. Consider these two facts. Only 5% of the span of human habitation in Florida is covered in actual written history books. The rest is literally being uncovered by archaeologists. Every day, you drive over some 6,000 known archaeological sites just in Leon County, probably without realizing it. So much of archaeology is invisible. In Uncovering Florida, you will hear about technological innovations like how to date a grain of sand from the last time it saw daylight as an alternative to carbon dating and some of the other new technologies. You'll also learn about some of the major themes in Florida archaeology. These include the Paleo period, some 14,000 years ago when glaciers were melting, sea levels were rising, and man lived, oh, I'm being flagged. Okay, quickly, you'll learn about the Archaic period through an underwater site called the Wendover Bog Site. It has rare organic material. You'll learn about the mound builders out at Lake Jackson, and we'll explore some of the earthen mounds out there. You'll learn about the Appalachian Indians, 30,000 of whom lived in between the Ocklawaha and the Osceola rivers when Europeans first came here. You'll learn about Seminole cultural evolution in the 18th and 20th century. Each session of Uncovering Florida will be taught by professional archaeologists who are specialties in these particular areas. You'll encounter some rarely seen artifacts that we're bringing in from the State of Florida Collections Facility. All the classes will be held at the Governor Martin House, the 1930s house out on Lafayette Street. It's a terrific setting. It's also the site of the Hernando de Soto 1539 encampment. We hope to see you there.
Listening to those 2-minute presentations reminds me of Einstein, who said, time is relative. When you're sitting on a bench next to a beautiful girl, it seems like being an eternity, but if you're sitting on a hot stove, 2 minutes is way too long. I'm Ursula Morgan, and I'm so delighted to share with you the greatest ideas presented through the eyes of artists and writers and composers. And I did something like this at TCC a few years ago when our president asked us to pick a favorite topic and teach it to the community. And I jumped on a chance. And it was Wisdom Through the Ages. And I don't have to worry about learning outcomes and tests. I can just share ideas with you. And since I'm given 6 weeks, I divided it into 6 themes. And I'm number 3. Is this working? Is it? Okay. I've divided it into 6 themes based on the things that I love. And we'll start out with self-discovery. And I might start with Socrates, who said the unexamined life is not worth living, because so many of us go through life like autopilot, you know. And into this theme, I bring Buddha, who says, live mindfully, you know. And to bring in Thoreau, who says, you know, even though most men live lives of quiet desperation, I hope we're not one of those, he says, suck the marrow out of life. We're going to learn to suck a lot. So the first week is self-discovery and also self-actualization. And so we start with the Greeks like 2,500 years ago, and we move on to the Romans, who feel much more practical about life. And Seneca says we should every night examine our lives that day. What conflict have we solved? What have we achieved? And I think that self-introspection is really important as well. Then the second week is February. I want to talk about love. And Plato says, you know, at the touch of love, everyone becomes a poet. You're going to write a little poem based on the letters of your life, of your name, I mean. And he also talks about there's 3 different kinds of love. We'll discuss that, and there are lots of poets and composers. We'll see Beethoven based on, oh yes, all right. Creativity and enlightenment is a third one where we talk about Leonardo da Vinci's How to Think and Act Like a Genius. We can do that in that 3rd week. 4th week, the power of thought and how it influences the outcome, our perception. The 5th week is altruism and social responsibility. When we talk about Gandhi, you must be the change you see in the world. He says, live simply so that others may simply live. And Jesus, who says, love one another. And Albert Schweitzer, ethics is nothing but reverence for life, for all of life. And there'll be a little project. You take your favorite quote that either you develop or that impacts your life, and you make a poster out of it. And one I end up with is by Camus, who says, in the depths of winter, I discovered within me an invincible summer. So I hope that we discover lots of invisible summers. And my very favorite quote by Plato, I live my life accordingly, is, be kind, because everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tobias Mostel. I'm teaching opera appreciation. You got my paper? Thank you. It's number 19. It's Wednesdays from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., room 214 at the Pepper Center. I teach interdisciplinary humanities, the multiculti film class at FSU, and I have been involved in opera all my life. I started at the top, you might say, as a boy in the chorus at the Metropolitan Opera when I was 12, and here I am talking about opera, so you'll just have to accept that. You should also understand that opera used to be popular, and it's somewhat less popular now, so I'm not really competing with anybody else who's talking about popular music. The first class will be a voice lesson. We will use my voice. I will not sing into this microphone because it'll break. I've taught teaching. I've taught piano and voice for 30 years, and I don't say that I know everything about it, but I know something about it. And so what I will share with the members of the class is terms that you need to know in order to describe what it is that you're hearing. That's an important thing because there's virtually no agreement in the opera world or the teaching world about what anything means. And no one would go so far as to say that what I'm hearing is what you're hearing. So we need to think about that a little bit. We will be watching clips from operas, mostly live operas that have appeared in videos and movies and TV and all kinds of things like that, mostly from my collection going back until about 1930. We'll be listening to recordings made by people who were born as early as 1843. We will be covering the whole history of opera weekly. Each week is a different composer, including Rossini, Mozart, Puccini, Bizet, Wagner, and everybody else at the end. So the most important thing is that opera is like football, except that the audience is different. In a football stadium, well, I mean by behavior. It's different behavior. In a football stadium, one batch of the audience supports one team, and the other batch of the audience supports the other team, but they never support the game as a whole, ever. They always support their teams. Whereas in the opera house, when you get there, you're rooting for the tenor, and then the soprano comes out and sings so beautifully that you end up rooting for her too. And by the time you get to the end of the opera, you're rooting for the composer. So this is a marvelous thing, and I'm going to share it with you. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Carrie Maddox from the College of Medicine.
And I'm Richard Novakovsky.
Chair of Biomedical Science at the College of Medicine. This is the second course we're teaching this spring semester. We taught fall last year a class, and this year it's going to be on a different topic. And I'm going to let Dr. Nowakowski tell us about it.
So the topic for this year is how to build a 21st century physician. So what we're going to do is to teach you, or to tell you and show you how physicians of tomorrow are educated. So we're going to start out with our 21st century medical school. It was born in 2001, so it's only 12 years old. And we're going to have a series of presentations, mostly by medical students who are, and their physician colleagues who are going to come in and teach you and show you what they've learned and how they've learned it. And we're going to start out with one of our mission statements, which is our major mission is to produce primary care physicians to serve the underserved and the rural communities and the elderly. So our first presentation is going to be by two medical students and the chair of our geriatrics department to talk about end-of-life care and things like that that many of you might want to know about, for your parents, I assume. And we're going to go on from there to talking about our medical mission to Nicaragua. We go every year to the same village in Nicaragua. Medical informatics, which is going to be helping you understand what is out there and available to help you with your health. And then a couple of things about research. Our medical students participate in research. Stem cells and traumatic brain injury is one of the topics. And then also there's a research project going on at Westminster Oaks using melatonin to treat mild cognitive impairment, and you'll get a live update from that by the medical student and the faculty members who are participating in that. And the last session is going to be a very special tour. We'll bring you to the medical school, put you in a class, take you around, and have you do things that the medical students do and have the medical students guide you around. So that's what we plan. Anything to add?
No, I'm the coordinator, so I'll see participants week after week, but each lecture will be a different pair of presenters. So I'll be the...
Like the football team in the opera, we're a team.
Yeah. Thank you. And it's course number 20, and this is on Wednesday afternoons at the Pepper Center.
Good evening. My name is Eluster Richardson, and I'm an artist. And my course number is 23, The Life and Works of Artist Dean Mitchell. Dean Mitchell is a fellow artist of mine. He's born in Pittsburgh and raised in Quincy. And he's an extraordinary watercolorist, and among other mediums. But he went from painting by numbers. For those of you who dabbled in painting while we was a child, we have the paint by number set. And he went from paint by numbers to being one of the nation's most recognized artists, and we want to tell that story through this class. He's won numerous awards. Of course, he's on the cover and featured in many magazines, such as American Artist, art magazines, artist magazines, Fine Art International, and News Art. He's also collected many corporations and museums collect his work. And of course, many of you may collect his work also. He's a well-known exhibitor over in Quincy at the Gaston Art Center. And what we want to do is go from that paint set to the recognition he has today. His early works through Hallmarks. He used to be an illustrator for Hallmark cards. I think, well, I know Hallmark cards are most of the photographs now, but they used to paint them. And he often tell the story about, well, my cards sell pretty good through Hallmark. So being business savvy, which most artists I would say is not business savvy, say I can make just as much money if I go out on my own and market my own stuff, and which he did. And what we want to do is take that journey from that to today's work. Most recently, he won the international competition, and the reception was held in China. So that tells you he is among one of the world's most accomplished artists. And our course first 2 weeks we'll talk about his early works, and we'll progress on up to his current works. And we'll hope to see you there. And last year we talked about the modern day artists, and this year we're gonna zero in on one artist. Last year we had quite a good time talking about what artists is, how artists see the world. But we'll see you there. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Sergeant Major Jarvis Rozier, retired Sergeant Major of the United States Army, 34 years, 4 months, and 2 days. And I remember each and every one of them. I didn't count the hours I was trying to get plastered. No, I won't. That's not the truth. But my class is class number 9, the Struggle for Freedom, the United States Colored Troops. And the class that I'll be instructing will be targeting that class in that period of time during the Civil War era, which was 1861 until 1865. I'm the project director for the United States Colored Troop Education Project with the John G. Rowley House Museum of African American History and Culture. And as we know, the Civil War era, which we'll be concentrating during that time, was a terrible time in our era, in our period, in our life, in our history, because over 622,000 soldiers died during that time. And we have to remember that they were all Americans. They were all Americans died in that war. The part we'll be talking about is the forgotten history that's not being written out, that we don't see a lot of, but we see in the back of our history books, are briefly passed over when we talk about the Civil War and the battles during that time. We're talking about the United States Colored Troops, the USCT. And the uniform that I'm wearing now, my theory is that knowing one's history is to believe it, but to see it is to conceive it. And that's why I wear the uniform when I talk about the story, the history that I'm talking about. And I figured if I stayed behind the podium here and not walk, you know, sergeant majors like to talk, I can stay structured and I can stay within my 2 minutes. So I'm going to stay here and try to get anything within my 2 minutes. But if I don't get in, make sure you come to the class and you get it all. I can't get it to you in 2 minutes. But during that time, a lot of people aren't aware of it, but when the movie Glory came out, a lot of people weren't aware that African Americans actually fought during the Civil War. Over 200,000 African Americans soldiers fought, and over 20,000 Navy soldiers fought during that time. Over 23 will receive the Medal of Honor, the United States Medal of Honor. There were over 68,000 that died on the battlefield and of diseases and other things that caused it during that time. So there's quite a bit of history there that, you know, when I've been researching and doing this since for the last 2 years, you know, I look at it, when I turn over a rock, I see so many pebbles. And then it got to where I turn over the pebbles, I see grains of sand. So there's so much history out there, and we're looking for everyone to come out and share this history with us as we talk about not only the soldiers, but the abolitionists during that time also. The African Americans that supported these soldiers also, not only African Americans, but people of white, also black, white, African Americans, Indians, all that contributed during that time. Many abolitionists, one like Frances Hopper, which was a poet, one of her famous poets was, "Make me a grave where you will, on a lowly plain or lawfully hill. Make it amongst earth's noblest graves, and not on a land where men are slaves." This was the sentiment of a lot of African Americans, all African Americans, I must say, during this time. So those that fought knew that a lot of times when they went to battle, they would not come back from the battle. They knew that their sacrifice was not only for the uniting of the Union, but it was for the freedom of tyranny and slavery during that time. So at the end of the war, Abraham Lincoln and General Grant, who took over the Union forces, said without the use of the United States colored troops, the African Americans fighting the battle, the Union victory would not have been able to be obtained. So there's a lot of history there. Like I say, knowing one's history is to believe it, but to see it is conceive it. And I'll be in my uniform, I'll be in my attire, we have different things of that nature. You know, I try to be authentic in everything I say and everything I do and everything I present. And I'm getting my 2-minute picture back there, so I have to show up. But I'll be showing a film documentary that I just finished. I'm also the president of the 2nd Infantry Regiment, United States Colored Troop Reenactment Unit and Living History Association, which we do reenactments, actual battlefield reenactments at several battlefields throughout the country and throughout the state. There were over 449 battles that these men fought in, 39 major and 17 in the state of Florida. We'll be talking about all of those. So we can't change our history, but we can definitely change the structure of our future, the good and the bad. So we're looking to have everyone come out, enjoy, and have a good time. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. If I stood back there, you'd think your teacher was a box. My name is Mary Jane Riles, and I'm teaching the Memoir and Prose Writing Workshop, course number 6, which meets Tuesday, 9:30 to 11:30, maximum 15 in the class. I got my PhD at Florida State. It's in American literature, Native American literatures, British literatures, and creative writing, just to give you an idea of what my interests are and how the way I teach creative writing might be influenced by those things. This class will get you started trusting your memory and experiences to write the story and stories you want to tell, whether for your family or friends or the world. We'll do exercises that nudge your memory, like making lists of things or images. For instance, listing 10 cars that you remember from your life. Then you'll answer questions about the images you chose from the 10. Easy questions like, are you in the car or out of it? After you answer the questions, you'll write for 7 minutes, telling the story of the car you remember. And it's amazing that mysteriously the stories begin to tell themselves through your fingers. It's not just about the car and whether you're in or out of it. Besides prompting your memory, we'll converse about some of the techniques of prose writing that make for effective, interesting, creative writing, like how to write dialogue, how to show characters, and later how to develop a longer plot and how to begin and end a piece. There's no homework required. Please don't do any homework unless you want to. And you may read your short pieces to the class, which will be a supportive setting. And you can read them right after you write them, or polish them and bring them to class, but no homework required. Now, you know, I really think that other students tell you better what a teacher is like and a class is like than the teacher does. So let's see, Eileen, Nancy, Jenny, Carolyn, anybody else who's been in my classes, would you all wave, stand up and wave? There's Judy. Okay. Okay. Thanks. I paid her to say that. So bring to class, if you're going to come, a spiral notebook, your favorite pens or pencils. And I'm delighted to be teaching at OLLI again. Thanks.
Good afternoon. I'm Casey Smith. I'm Curator of Education at the Museum of Florida History, and I'm 18. Actually, I'm only 18 in my dreams, course number 18, which is titled Forever Changed La Florida, 1513 to 1821. And during this course, we'll investigate, explore the Spanish colonial period in Florida, and specifically the impact on Native peoples. So that time period will be 1513 to 1821. We won't talk about that little 20-year hiatus when it was under Florida was under the dominion of the British Empire, that's 1763 to 83. For our format, we'll have short lectures, 30 to 40 minutes, complemented by tours of the Museum of Florida History exhibits, demonstrations of artifact replicas, various conservation lab techniques, and also interactive and some hands-on activities. We've assembled, the Museum of Florida History is sponsoring the course. We've assembled a team of about 12 people who have professional or academic experience in Spanish colonial era in Florida. Most of the presenters are associated with the Florida Department of State, either the Museum of Florida History, the Bureau of Archaeological Research, State Archives and Library, but 3 or 4 people are from outside DOS. Our weekly topics will begin, of course, with Native peoples in Florida. You can't really start looking at the history of Florida, whether it's prehistoric or historic, without contemplating the people who were here long before the Europeans. So Native peoples of Florida is the topic of the first week. The second week, nautical navigation and maps. You know, all these Europeans didn't just drop from the sky. They got here by maritime means, and so Peter Cowdery, a local reenactor and historian, will talk about navigation in the 17th, 16th, 17th centuries, and also the tools that were used. There'll be an opportunity for you to actually practice with some of these tools. The third presentation, Spanish exploration, will look at the 4 primary explorers. That would be Ponce, and then Narvaez, Panfilo de Narvaez, Hernando de Soto, and Tristan de Luna y Arellano, and what their explorations were like during those colonial years. The fourth presentation, Maritime Exploration, will deal with the excavation of the oldest shipwreck in Florida, which was one of the ships of the fleet of Tristan de Luna over in Pensacola Bay. So you'll have a sense of how we're looking at the archaeology through these vehicles that allowed colonization to take place. The fifth presentation, a new community after Florida actually began to be colonized. There were missions, forts, and settlements. A team of people will talk to you about those entities and some of the vestiges of them here in Tallahassee today. And finally, we'll close with a discussion of the second Spanish period, which really saw the emergence of the Seminole people of Florida and American intervention. We'll be meeting on Wednesday mornings from 9:30 to 11:30 at the Museum of Florida History, and I look forward to the opportunity of working with you.
Well, it's the bottom of the ninth, and there's only 3 batters to go, so I think y'all can make it. It's been a good game. My name is Rick Swain. The course I'm teaching is the history of American baseball, which kind of segues in there. It's course number 4 in your catalog. I was hoping I could get by without these, but I'm afraid I can't. I spent 30 years as a CPA, a certified public accountant, before I retired and decided to be a certified baseball junkie instead. And it is a lot more fun. Maybe not as profitable, but a lot more fun. I'm a member of the Society for American Baseball Research, and I've written 3 books on various aspects of baseball history. My website is, as author's website is rickswain.com, pretty simple. When I first was approached about handling this course, I thought, wow, what am I going to talk about for 12 hours? And then after I sat down and started making up a plan, I thought, I don't know if we can handle it in 12 hours. So we're going to run it in chronological order, starting with the origins of baseball back in the mid-1800s. What was baseball like then as opposed to what it eventually became. And we're going to proceed to the dead ball era, Ty Cobb and Cy Young and those guys, and then the lively ball era, which was Babe Ruth, and who basically revolutionized the game. We're going to talk a lot about baseball during World War II, professional baseball during World War II. And then the integration era, starting in 1947 when Jackie Robinson broke in, and continuing on for more than a decade. We'll talk about, we'll go into expansion when the number of teams doubled starting in the 60s. Talk about free agency, which made millionaires of somebody in baseball besides owners for a change. And then talk about the steroid era, and finally we'll talk a little bit about sabermetrics, which was the new measurement, performance measurement systems that are, we're not going to spend too much time on that because I don't understand a lot of it myself, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. Some of the other things we're going to take a look at, kind of the other side of baseball, the Black Sox scandal that almost ruined the game, the fatal beating of Ray Chapman, which accounted for a lot of changes in the rules to protect batters and stuff like that. The Negro Leagues, which pretty much faded out when the major leagues integrated in the late 40s. And if we have time, we're going to do a little section on professional baseball in Tallahassee, which many of you are probably surprised that there has been some. Anyway, the class, I'm looking for a lot of class participation. Hoping to learn as much from the students as they learn from me. So, and one last note of caution, if there are any Yankee fans that are going to take the course, wear your thick skin. Thank you.
So I am Eric Wiebelhaus-Braun. I teach in political science and international affairs here at Florida State. And the course that I'm offering is Politics of the United Nations. It's number 8 in your schedule. Now, you might have very different ideas here in the room about the utility of the United Nations, the effectiveness of it, the power that it wields or the lack thereof. But I think there's fairly little disagreement on the fact that it's probably the most important international organization that exists in today's world. So in this course, what we're going to do is explore the UN, dig into how it works, or how it's supposed to work, and why it often doesn't work in the way that at least some might hope that it does. We'll look at a range of contemporary issues, like humanitarian intervention in the Syrian conflict, recognition of Palestine, and other sorts of issues. And we'll largely do this through a simulation of the United Nations in the class. So throughout the course, you're going to take on a role as being a representative for a state within the UN. As part of the course, we're going to be meeting in the classrooms. You'll have the opportunity to do online research, looking at what types of positions the country that you're representing has taken on different issues before the UN, and we'll play out debates in the classroom in terms of how we think the international community should respond. So you can come to class to take on a new role, to do a little bit of acting, if you will. So I hope you're able to join us, and I look forward to it. So thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Trip Wyckoff. I'm the business librarian at Florida State University. I'm here representing a group of librarians. There's 9 of us that are going to present a wide range of information. Actually, it should support everything that you're taking in the classes that you've heard before me. So I'm sitting in the row here listening to all the other presenters going, yeah, we're going to talk about that. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. Well, we're not going to talk about baseball, but we can talk about that if you want. So real quickly, we've got 8 classes lined up. We're going to do social media, not just like social media of should I do this or not, but how do you go about separating your private life from your social media life? We really want you to start thinking about this because this is something that we're struggling with at the library. You may be surprised, but the library is really becoming a center at the university for trying to understand how you can use the internet in your entire life. We're also going to talk about how physicians and patients are using social media. The medical librarians are going to be talking about that. So if you're interested in how new ways of contacting your doctor, this might be a class for you. I'm going to teach a class on financial literacy. So I'm going to teach you like all the secret free resources that you may or may not be aware of, and not just at Florida State, but out there in the real world. There's a ton of information. We're going to talk about books, media, music. We're going to talk about citizen information, so government resources, not just at the federal level, but at the state level and the local level, believe it or not. And then finally, travel and leisure. I saw that you guys went on a trip down the Danube not too long ago. Hopefully we can help you prepare for that, for the next trip that you're going to take. And I really look forward to having you guys there. I'm going to act as kind of the maitre d' of the cruise, so to speak. And so I look forward to seeing you there. We are class number 17, and we'll be over at the library. So look forward to seeing you there. Thanks.